you got to have passion. You got to be turned on. And that has to show itself in whatever work that you do. Some people just really, really love money. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to have more of it than less of it. But the money itself is not really the driver. It's just like the love for the game. It might even be an addiction to staying in motion. You know what I mean? And then money and business and all that kind of stuff is sort of a byproduct. If I'm not passionate about something, I can't really hold on to it for too long.
You just got back from the Dominican Republic. How was that? Tell me about it, man.
Oh, it was great, man. It was great. I was down there looking into some business stuff, trying to import some of the products that we do for my industrial company down there. Had a few meetings and, enjoyed myself as well. Made sure to hit the beach in between the meetings.
I love tropical environments, man. Yeah, I love it. And nothing makes me more happy, like my soul, than being like on a tropical island. And,
oh man,
I was just explaining to someone, I went and taught a jiu-jitsu seminar in Edinburgh a few years ago, up in Scotland. And it was wild because at that point it was like July and it's so far north that I don't even think it got to be dark until like 11 o'clock at night. Oh, wow. It was just like, you're like, to me, it was like, I've been to Alaska, but it really felt like, oh my gosh. And what I told them was Edinburgh, Scotland, all that is amazing. It's like inspired. That's what inspired. There's this massive castle in the middle of the city and ancient castle, and you feel like you're in Game of Thrones. And there's this alley that winds down from the castle, and was the inspiration for Harry Potter's Diagon Alley, and it truly is like mind blowing.
Oh wow!
But even with the sun out that long, and me being such a freaking lunatic for getting sun, I not for one moment did I ever think, and I always think this, but not for one moment did I think, oh, I wonder what it would be like to live here. All I thought was, get me out of here. Because it is the farthest remote thing from a tropical island, and so I have to have that, man. Even like when I go to Spain or I go to Portugal, I'm on the beach and I'm thinking, okay, I could live here. This is cool, but not in Scotland. Even not even really in London. Like I kind of like London because my daughter lives there, but not really, So.
Yeah, it's like it's places like that are cool to visit, but it's like it's not like what do you? There's just something about tropical, man. It's just something about tropical. It's just everything. You get off the plane
and you're
feel like everybody moves slower. Like the air just blows slower. Like it's awesome.
All of it, right?
It's awesome.
Right?
It's awesome.
So
I don't know, like I don't know, like well, I mean, I did a long time. I lived there for about a year, so I was just about to say I don't know if I could do it for a long time, but I did. And it was great.
Years a long time, dude.
Yeah, years a long time.
How did it feel to go back to New York?
Well, I mean, I was really young. I was 24. So I guess like after a while, like, I had to return to reality and like, make money and, do all that kind of stuff. But
see, I'm shaking my head. No, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, you do. No, you don't. Yeah, you do. Which kind of brings up what I wanted to talk about today. Is, there's, I think with the advent and the rapid progression of AI recently and the effects on jobs and all that, it really got me thinking, for our kids, grandkids, all that, like what are they going to do? But more importantly, I wanted to ask you, like, how do you thread that needle and talk a little bit about what you do? But how did you thread the needle between being passionate about something and being able to make money doing something? Because I've heard both sides of the story. Some people are like, be passionate. And then I think it's this guy, the host of I don't know what that show is, like shitty jobs or something,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. And he's like, no, you don't want to be passionate at all about your job. If you got to make money cleaning sewers and you can make a lot of money, you should do that. So for you, like, talk about what you do and how you thread that needle.
I mean, I to me, like, passion is just kind of like my, you know, fuel. That's like my combustible, like, you know what I mean? Like, I need to be passionate about whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, there's aspects of what I do that are purely about money,
Hmm.
and then there are aspects of what I do that are less about money and more about the creative piece. So I've kind of fashioned my life to where I have both. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm kind of like in the early stages of turning the creative and the artistic stuff into business. So I kind of have the luxury of like being able to do it and not having to rely on it. I could see how some people could have a different perspective when their art and what they do is how they make a living, and they have to make compromises and do all sorts of stuff that, you know, isn't like theoretically the passion piece of it. But
Hmm.
I think you got to have passion. You got to be turned on, you know? Like, you got to be turned on, and like that has to show itself in whatever work that you do. You know, I don't, some people just really, really love money. And don't get me wrong, I like money. I mean, you know, I'd like to have more of it than less of it. But
Hmm.
the money itself is not really like the driver. It's not
Hmm.
really it's just like the love for like the game. It might even be an addiction to staying in motion. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, and then money and business and all that kind of stuff is sort of a byproduct. Um, but passion is really, for me, it just underpins everything. I mean, you know, I kind of, if I'm not passionate about something, I can't really hold on to it for too long.
So are you passionate about like your industrial packaging business?
No, no, not at
Well,
all.
that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah,
that's a big part of what
yeah.
you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle to earn a living and, you know, stay in house and home. It's not passionate about it. I
So
mean,
so
I
how do
was
you do that?
passionate. I was
Mm,
passionate at a certain point in terms of like getting it going, and like, and I guess like kind of proud of myself to a certain extent of like, you know, I have this ability, I can do this, I can make this thing happen. So I guess there is a little bit of passion in it. You know what I mean? There is a little bit of, and when I work and when I sell and when I interact, you know, with opportunities, I'm always very passionate, you know, and it comes across.
mhm.
But as an entire enterprise, no, I'm not passionate the way I'm passionate about Viola Media.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you've been able to you've been able to, it sounds to me like you've been able to extract aspects of the game with the packaging business to get yourself excited about it, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because I just kind of feel like that's essential for me anyway. Like, I'm not good at like, you know, I wear it on my sleeve. You can see where I'm at coming from a mile away. You know what I mean? I need to
Hmm.
be charged up. I need to be engaged. I'm not good at like, you know, at you know, just playing just to play.
So when you're thinking about, like, if you were mentoring somebody and they're, let's say they're going into thinking about, even thinking about going into college, I mean, what's that conversation look like with that, with someone who's younger like that? What do you say?
I would say don't go to college unless like, you know, you want to be a doctor or an attorney or something that's so specific that like you need to learn that thing in order to get the accreditation to be let into the club. Um,
Hmm.
but I would say to people like, go learn how to work. Go learn how to work. Go learn how to stick with something. You know what I mean? Go learn how to like do some shit that you don't want to do for a little while. Um,
Hmm.
get paid, make some money, understand what that's like. And then like you could, you know, I think what a lot of people kind of miss is that like understanding how to work in whatever your capacity is. Cause like, I've always been a salesperson. I've always been good at, bringing in opportunities and selling and that kind of stuff. I've never been a manual guy. I mean, I can't fucking turn a fucking light bulb. And, but like, so I learned like what my thing was. And then I learned pretty quickly how that could be translated into so many different areas. And I think that's something that people miss. It's like, learn how to work, learn how to provide value, learn how to like bring value to other people or the team that you're on. Understand how to do that. And once you understand how to do that, then you can figure out different ways to maximize and optimize and make it better for yourself. But I think that like a lot of people, like they'll go to school, they'll get a degree, and then they'll show up and then they'll work. And it's kind of like this feeling of like, all right, well, I did the steps and now I'm here. So, and it's like, no, you got to like be there and provide value and add value. If you can learn how to do that amongst a group of people, you'll always have value. People will always seek you out. So I think it's like kind of like a perspective shift, but I wouldn't counsel anybody to go run to college and do like liberal arts and open, like the way that I did. I wouldn't counsel anybody to do that right now.
So how, if you were aside from school, then would you, like, what field? How do you advise somebody on like what field? Like you're 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old. The reality is we're going to live. I heard someone talking about this the other day. They're like, even at 40, 45 years old, our life expectancy, especially, the things we're talking about, you're going to live to be like 90 years old.
It's wild.
And it is wild. And they were like, don't think that you're going to hit 45 and you're going to be done. That's silly. There is so much to experience and to challenge yourself with. So anyways, based on that, how do you advise someone as far as choosing a field?
I would say just try some stuff. Like think about what you like. Think about what you're good at. Like, are you a people person? Do you like talking to people? Are you handy? Are you manual? Are you analytical? Like what type of things do you like? And then how can you? And then you got to try stuff. You got to try stuff. Go work at a fucking bar. You know what I mean? Go work at a restaurant. I think everybody should work at a restaurant at least once in their life. You know what I mean? Like things like that.
I was a bartender. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you learn so much from those experiences. You meet so many people, you know what I mean? Like, and you learn how to operate in high stress environments, which is like, imperative for life because life is one high stress environment. So I would just, I would, and I think that like, I always worked when I was a kid. Like I feel like that was, that was kind of like how my family was. My father was like that. I got a job. I think I was like 12 years old. I got my first job. I worked at a pharmacy. And
I did too. I delivered
like
drugs for a pharmacy.
Yeah. I was like a stock boy and I used to break up the boxes and shit. And what was really funny is back then the guy had a huge shopping cart that was like filled with porno magazines. So like after, you know what I mean? Like I'm like breaking up the boxes and like, sneaking a peek in the back room and shit. But yeah, I mean, so 12 years old, I started working and I've always worked, you know what I mean? It was always something that, I guess it was just like a point of pride. Like I like to have my own money. I like to, because if you work and you make some money and you got options and then, you cycle through the options and you try to keep, but I was raised in an environment where, that mentality, was bred in, so I know some people, for me, it's so easy to say that. And I know for some people it's not. For some people, like, they're not in open and flexible and free thinking environments. And, they only know what they know and they're scared. But I think to sum it up, you just got to get out and you got to try stuff. You got to try stuff.
Yeah. I'll give you the counterpoint to that because I feel like education and liberal arts is really, really important. And I think that everyone should spend and take it very seriously and take it like be grateful and realize that the opportunity to go to school is a luxury like that most humans don't have. And I personally think everybody should go to junior college for 2 years and study liberal arts and study history and study economics so that they can understand. Like for me, having gone, being a sociology major in undergrad and then going back to school when I was like 26 years old, and having a family by that point. At that point, when I was 26 and going to law school and getting my MBA, going to business school, I was so grateful, because I was like, I'll never have this opportunity again.
Sure.
And so one of my favorite classes that I ever took in business school was economics. And mainly because, Jesse, now I can pick up the newspaper and studying economics for an entire year. I can pick up the newspaper and read it and understand exactly what's happening with when they're saying the Fed is meeting and they're discussing interest rates. What are the ripple effects from that? What are the political and what are the socioeconomic effects for the world? And so the ability for me, to walk into a room with anybody and hold the conversation is a big deal.
Yeah, there's major value. There's absolutely.
Oh yeah, because if I can talk
Absolutely.
about anything regarding economics, history, anthropology, anything like that, that's a big networking opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
I think especially because for me, I'm a lawyer, and I represent high value clients. And so for me, that ability to have those conversations and bridge and that relationship is very important. I'm not saying you have to get a degree, and I'm not saying that you can't learn if you're diligent about it. The things you should learn. But you look at someone like Steve Jobs, and he dropped out of college, but stayed in school for a year. He was like, my parents can't afford this. I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to pay for this, but I'm just going to audit the classes. And he talked to, I think, the dean and was like, I just want to learn,
No, I think that's totally different. I think learning, like, my beef or my thing is more like with the business and the machine of higher education.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I would counsel somebody against. Not that concept of learning as much. No, that's it. That's the whole game.
I agree with you. And that's why even when I was in school, I went to school at UNLV in Las Vegas. I came from there. The tax base is so big in Vegas from the casinos that for me, school was pretty much free, right? So I got and that's why I went there. Would I have rather have gone to a more expensive school in California where I was on the beach? Hell yeah. But
Sure.
Even then, I recognize I need to get out of here without any debt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that business model is fucked.
It hurts so many people, man. I mean, it hurts so many people. I know people like my age that are 40 something years old still fucking paying. It's crazy.
No, even when I went to law school, I had a fellowship for business school, and that I got because of my GMAT scores, and I had a lot of my law school paid for. So I had everything like paid off within, 2-3 years. Yeah. And so, no, I agree with you on that. So, like Steve Jobs with Apple, one of the classes that he audited was a calligraphy class, and he directly credits that calligraphy class with changing the entire computer industry, because that was the first time that he was like, the Mac is going to focus on fonts. And if it focuses on fonts, then we can empower people to do desktop publishing. You don't have to get a graphic designer. And that changed the world,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I do think that's, you and I agree on that. But
definitely,
how do you get that knowledge? And one thing, you hear about people who are, they're down on school, I think that's the caveat, is that, most wealthy people, they're sending their kids to school.
Sure.
They're not pulling their kids out and saying, "Oh, you don't need an education." Hell no. But it is, if in California, like junior college is free.
It
And
needs to be
so,
revamped. It needs to be revamped. Like the institution itself needs to be, somebody needs to come in and do what Jobs did, with desktop publishing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's what it needs. Somebody needs to come in and make a new mousetrap, reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah, like with
Because
Common University or something like that online. There's
yeah,
this, I wish I remembered his name because I've seen his video a few times. And one of his TED Talks is basically, we are fucking the future. We are fucking the next generation.
yeah,
And what he's saying is that he's like, all this shit, and I agree with this, all this shit that people say of, oh, this generation of kids, they're pussies and all that. That is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. And he gave
yeah.
statistics. That's what old people say. Right?
Always.
That's what old people say. They say, "Oh, I had to walk through the snow." And so when you
Kids
hear
these
someone saying
days.
that, kids these
Yeah.
days, it's the same shit, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're not pussies. They're not any. We were no tougher, but what he's saying is that what's happened. Look at data. Look at statistics. Right. What he's saying is that he went to Berkeley and graduated with like a 2.2 average, grade average, and or went to undergrad and then applied to Berkeley, to like one of the most elite schools, and got in.
Yeah, yeah.
And talks about how, that they were accepting, when he went to school, that they were accepting like 78% of all students who applied. And now that same school is only accepting 9% of
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And so we've
you talking
turned
about
that.
Scott Galloway?
Maybe that's who it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
He's good. He's good. He's real good.
And and how our generation could, you got out of school and, without any training, you were hired. Everyone was hired. It was so
Yep.
easy to get jobs. And then how at that time, everyone just on one salary could buy a house.
No, dude,
None of that exists anymore for
this
these
world
kids.
is so much more difficult and so much more challenging and so much more like competitive. This world right now is wild. Is wild. We had it. I'm 42, so like I lived like right across the divide. So like
Yeah,
the
you did.
first 20 years of my life, was relatively analog. The second,
Mhm.
the next half, like we had Facebook in our dorm rooms, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just starting.
You were right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have a friend. I have a friend right now. One of my close friends, one of my drilling partners in jujitsu, and he makes a lot. He makes probably 200,000, 150, 200,000 a year. His wife makes money, and they're in California and they can't afford a house.
yeah, dude, it's expensive. I mean,
They
where I'm
cannot
at, it's super
afford.
expensive.
It's expensive everywhere.
Yeah.
It's expensive everywhere that I've gone.
Yeah,
That
Florida is expensive. Florida's always been cheap. Florida is super expensive now.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It was, I remember I bought a couple lots, and I was building some houses back in like 2002 or 3, and I bought the lots for 20 grand,
Yeah.
Those lots today are $250,000 for a lot.
It's
It's not even a
wild.
house, man. It's insane because income has not kept up with that.
No. No.
So how is this? So I think people need to start. We need to start having this conversation like Galloway, to where it's like we need to stop with the stupid rhetoric of these kids are pussies and start saying we're facing a crisis right now, and it's one of the reasons Elon Musk recently has been bemoaning for the past year the fact that birth rates are plummeting.
Yeah, he's been on that.
And yeah, but the counter to that is that I think Galloway was talking about it, about how, why in the world would you bring kids into this world when you can't afford it?
Yeah,
That's
I
so
mean, like,
irrational. It's so irrational. Elon Musk is the wealthiest person in the world, or one of the top three, right? His
yeah,
wealth is insane, and he's going to cry about people not bringing kids into the world. Well,
yeah. It's
start
like how,
taking that energy of yours, Elon, and start advocating for tax changes to where school is free, like it is for my daughter. We're in London, where school is basically free, healthcare is free, all these things are free, right?
it just seems like we need, like, we need some sort of a reset. It's like, where are the adults, and why can't they?
You know what? You know what?
Why
You're
can't they
absolutely right.
talk? And like, is it's not like, because America's great overall.
Yeah.
Overall, it's a great place. And you can do things here that you can't do anywhere else. And but it just seems like everything is just like there's this game that's being played that out in the open, and it doesn't include us. And why is nobody standing up and saying, "Okay, where are the adults? Can we just, because
You
it
know
doesn't
why?
have."
Because it is absolutely a rigged system in which, given the debates that just happened between Biden and Trump, where you see both of them were probably wearing diapers, right? They're
Yeah,
both
yeah.
fucking 80, let's not forget the fact they're both fucking 80 years old.
That's
Right?
right there is
One,
insane.
one, yeah. One of them is so senile he probably crapped his pants on stage, but the other one's
Unbelievable.
right behind him.
Yep, yep,
He's a crybaby narcissist, and so
yep.
the two of them are the most ridiculous. We are facing, we talk about AI and all that. We are facing like almost existential crises on so many fronts in this country. What we need is young people to solve the problem. We need youth. We definitely don't. And I'm talking about, how about someone 50 years old? Why do they have to
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah,
80?
yeah, yeah.
Why do they
Yeah,
have to be
100%.
80? I think 35 would be great. 35 is a great age. That's the
There's
youngest you can be president. Bring them in. Bring in some young people. Get the motherfuckers who are like on their phone going, what is this? Neither, get them off the stage, man.
yeah,
Gone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Two
100%.
young people.
Are you
I'm
familiar with the president of El Salvador, Bukele?
Yeah. He
He's
cleaned that
awesome.
place up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we need a guy like that. Young guy who's like not afraid to talk straight. You know what I mean? Be real, be a real person.
Talk
Um
straight and just, yeah, and that can put together, like, you listen to these two guys on stage, neither of them can follow a train of logic. Both of them, you're just like, but one was so bad that you didn't
yeah.
even pay attention to how bad the other one was. But
Yeah, yeah.
as far as politics, I'm not political.
Me neither.
I I hate politics because when you're old enough and you follow politics, you realize they're all just piece of shit, right? They're
Sir, they're
all
so
fucking,
fake. They're so
yeah,
fake. You see what
dude.
as
It's
soon
like,
as soon as they start talking, you know right away, like, this is not a real person. This is a robot. This is, this is an
you're going to say
agenda.
anything you have to say to get the
Yeah.
power. Once you
Yep.
get the power, you're like, it's like Lord of the Rings, but with the ring. But my
Yeah.
favorite book, Dune. I'm
Yep.
sure I've said it a million times on here, but my favorite book, Dune, one of my favorite quotes was, paraphrasing it, is it's not power. It's not that power corrupts, is that power attracts those that are corruptible. Anybody that would put themselves in that situation is doing it for the power. And that's why, those around Joe Biden right now are refusing to concede when 75% of Americans are said even a year ago, he's too old. We all know
Yeah.
he's too old. We've all known he's too old, and he just showed it. So
Yeah.
get them both off the stage, man. Get us two young people. I hope that happens because we are facing, like I said, crises that need
It-
innovative and new ideas.
it's
But in
scary,
everything
man.
from education, yeah, it's scary for the younger generation, is what it is. But,
Yeah.
the great thing about politics is, it is government. As much as we want to bemoan it, it is government by the people. We need to be involved. We need to vote. We need to, it's disgusting as it is. There's no other way. It's the paradox,
Yeah.
It sucks, but
Yeah.
we have to be involved. So anyways, let's shift gears off of that, off the political thing. But I think, we are in this really interesting place where, where now we're looking at, Elon was talking about this also, he's very forward thinking in almost everything, and I'm not an Elon fan per se, but I am. There's a lot of things I respect and admire about him. There's a lot of things I'm like, man, you're crazy. Which is good,
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
for sure. Crazy get shit done.
Crazy. That's exactly right. Yes. And so, but even he's like, listen, man, the goal here with all of this trillions of dollars that is pouring into social media, that is, what it's all doing. If you look at really from the outside, it's all trying to get rid of every single job that exists.
Yeah.
Right? Uber from the beginning, Uber, Waymo, Google, the reason they all got into to the ride sharing thing was because their idea was they knew the future is going to be robo taxis. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the taxi drivers out of business first using human labor, and then we're going to transition to putting the Uber drivers out of business, and then it'll just be robo taxis. And it's already happened.
What are we gonna do? What are people gonna do?
That's the question. And so
What are we gonna
Andrew
do?
Yang, Andrew Yang ran on this, which I think is amazing, where he's like, listen, he, again, forward thinking, Andrew Yang, forward thinking. It's over. Jobs are over. And so we need to create a universal basic income. And Elon's recently been talking about like a high universal basic income. And, between what's happening with the robots that they're doing at Tesla, to the AI, to all of it, it's eliminating very quickly jobs right now, from coders to paralegals to whatever. What are your kids going to do? That's the question.
Yeah, man. It's
And I
changing
think it's
everything.
silly. And I think it's silly to think that it's what's the next generation going to do? I think it's what is everyone going to do in 3 to 5 years when it starts hitting fucking hard. And again, back to economics, one thing we know is that the way humans like to think is, oh, but I do X, Y, and Z, so my job is safe. Dude, that's the stupidest way to think, because the economy is a web. The study of economics, back to that, you learn the interrelation between everything. So if your clients' jobs are not safe, and if your clients' jobs are not safe, then who's going to pay you?
100%.
With
It's
your
everything.
safe job.
Everything is in flux right now. Everything is like just the floor is moving, and it's hard. It's hard to see where it's going. It's very hard to see where it's going.
If we eliminate right now 10 to 15% of the jobs, everything falls apart. People don't realize that. It all falls apart. And projections are that's where we're going. And, there are some people who are techno optimists. They're like, oh, but new jobs will be created. Not at the speed that things are changing now. Yes, when we moved from an agrarian society to industrial society, new jobs were created. But that happened over centuries.
Yeah. It's going to happen, but you're right. It's not going to happen fast enough. It's not going to happen
fast enough.
There's going to be some wild fallout. I just hope it's not bloody.
And I think, yeah, no shit, man. And I think, Jesse, where it's, the difference between the transition from the agrarian to industrial, from the industrial to the computer, was that it was only really in the information age that the idea was, if we eliminate jobs, then we get to keep all that money ourselves. If we eliminated every job I eliminate
Yeah.
with my technology, now the money goes to me. And that's
Yep.
why we have this gilded age of the, billionaire,
Outsourcing and all that
multi
stuff.
billionaire. Yeah. Or just not even outsourcing. That was the old, the globalization age of the 80s and 90s. I'm talking about elimination, where it's like, oh, no, 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 no. The AI can do that. We're building AI, not just using LLMs, but using even manual labor. We're going to eliminate jobs. Every job I eliminate, I get the money myself.
Well, you know what's happening right now in the business world in a lot of like industries is there's a tremendous amount of consolidation. Small players are giving up, going out, being gobbled up by larger companies, and you're seeing that in all different industries.
All different now. That's been happening since the 80s. And so you see that pressure of consolidation, which is going to be huge. But I think what's even bigger, what Andrew Yang and Elon are talking about, is that it's the elimination of a complete set of jobs.
Yeah, we have to come up with a new form of like how we live.
And exactly. And so in that involves, that is going to involve so much, because it's going to reshape our society. And so when you, not only are people going to not have work, but they're not going to have a sense of self-worth. And we
Sure.
talked about this before, about how, so much of our society is built on this mythology of the idea that if you work 40 to 60 hours as a grinder, then you have a greater self-worth.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of having self like seeing myself through the virtue of working, like I identify with that very much so. And like if I were, if that were to go away, like, I mean, I guess I would fucking play music all the time and, do podcasts and talk shit and
That's
I'd
what
probably be
Andrew
happy.
Yang and that's what Andrew Yang and Elon Musk are saying. That's going to be, we're going
What
to have
people
to
do.
find self-worth that way. That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be necessary to. But what it's funny, because you are like that, right? And I'm like that, because we were raised in a society where that was part of the social fabric, through our brains, that
You
we
got to
came up with.
produce. You got to produce, man.
Got to
That's it. You got to
produce.
produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my friend Hal, who ran Flow Grappling, and he's going to be a commentator for CJI. I'm so pumped.
Awesome. That's
Hal
cool.
Teague, yeah, I'm really pumped. And he and I were chatting this week, and he lives in Portugal now, and he's just like, he's from London, which is a grind society like ours,
Yep.
and he was saying that, being in the European society, he's like, it's so different. And I said, dude, when I lived in Sicily, it's so different. They are not. And you living in Dominican Republic, you realize this is not every society is the way we are, right? It's not
No.
like that in Dominican
No.
Republic, is it? They don't
No.
have that grind idea, that
No.
whole ethos, do they?
No, you know what? So I mean, there is that element, but it's not the same. It's not the same, and like because people don't have anything, and you don't miss what you never had, and that like constant, need to like move upward is not there. And another thing that's interesting is that like something that I always notice when I'm down there, like I'll be with people, and like minutes will go by in silence, and like
Wow.
you're in a group of people, and like nobody talks, and it's not uncomfortable. It's not awkward. And I always think about that. I always think about how you be sitting there and nobody says anything. And it's like, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how like we here have to fill every moment, every thought, every motion. Everything has to be maximized and constantly like on and other places it's not like that. It's not like that. And I don't think it's I don't know. Like I don't want to say that like our society is terrible and it's unhealthy, but there are some aspects of it that really are.
I think, it's like, go back to jujitsu, right? It's like, unless you have the intelligence to and the vulnerability to say, I have a weakness in my game, you're never going to improve.
Yeah.
And I don't think, how should society be any different?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we have to be able to look and say, okay, we have a problem here. Nothing is perfect. Everything is in
Yeah.
flux. That's what life is. We need the ability to say, okay, things are changing now. Let's adapt. How do I change my game? How do I improve?
And it just seems like in the political sphere of things is like, it's just two different versions of like an older story instead of, hey, like what you're saying, like, hey, we have some issues and we have to make them better. We have to work on this. It's never about that. It's just arguing over, which version of the past truth is valid or not. And it's like, why, what, stop. You said
it
it
reminds
perfectly.
me of it reminds me of of jujitsu. Like when some people, I remember when I first was training at Art of Jujitsu, and I would meet people who trained at old school gyms, and they were like, the Baron the
Yep.
guard, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know, that's you need to just learn old school. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
I want to evolve. I want, you know what I mean? Yeah, the old school stuff is easy to learn. I don't want to go to a
Yeah.
school where I'm just learning old school shit. I want to learn it all. I want to have it all. I want to advance. I want the greatest. So,
And then
yeah,
pick and choose what works for me and what doesn't. You know what I mean? Like without having to have this like need to like subscribe, and it just seems like that's what we've become. We've become like just this nation of subscribers.
yeah. And to me, it's like, the whole idea of make America great again is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's like, you're not taking into account that implies in that statement that we need to go backwards. That
Yeah,
is not
sure.
where we need to go. We need to go
No,
forward. But
100%.
it's an easy, silly, simplistic message. And the other side has the exact same dumb shit. It's like we
Yep.
need by putting Biden forth. It's like no, 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 no. We need young, new, young, And so yeah, I think we're facing, with all of the exciting and awesome, I'm optimistic about it, changes, but I'm only optimistic about it if we can come up with a framework, from a government standpoint that says, for every job that a company eliminates, you're going to pay a significant amount of taxes forever, and you're going to fund this UBI. That's the only solution. That's it. There is no other solution.
That'd
This
be a
is it's
relief,
it.
man. That'd be a they
It's the
hit
only
you
way
with
we're going to do it. There's
hit you
nothing
with
else.
$100,000 a year, just to have it. You know what I mean? That would be amazing. That would take a lot of pressure off.
Listen, that is ultimately,
I mean, and I would still work. I would still do my thing, but like in such a different spirit.
that's what Elon Musk had talked about, and that is the only solution. And people who want to fight against that, it's because they're brainwashed into the idea that everyone needs to suffer in order to justify their worth, And it's like, no, we're moving towards, as sci-fi, a sci-fi geek. It's like I want to move towards a utopia where no one suffers. And, I'm not saying we can never get there, but let's move towards it. And that is the idea behind what these companies are selling. They're like, oh, we're going to eliminate work. We're going to eliminate. Okay, but there's another piece in the puzzle that says when we eliminate work, that we have to figure out then how people live. And so
Yeah.
that's why, circling back, we really do need young, bright minds like Andrew Yang, who are saying, okay, this is how we're going to, because right now we've got to restructure society. There
No
is
question.
no question about it. No one,
Can
yeah. And not
can we
go
do it?
backwards. Not go
Can we
backwards.
can we do it in a delicate way without breaking everything apart? Probably not.
We're on a crossroads, man. It's going to be an interesting few years. I think everything is about to frickin', you know,
Scary.
we're gonna be tested. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
It's scary, man.
It's gonna be crazy. Yeah. All right, brother. Next time, man, it'll be awesome.